A few days ago, a man named James Hodgkinson shot and wounded several people at a baseball field in Washington, D.C., before himself being shot and killed. This is an example of exactly the same phenomenon that lay behind the recent criminal atrocities in the Manchester Arena and London Bridge and Borough Market. Hodgkinson was a democratic activist with a deep grudge against the Republican Party. He was also a man with extremist, violent tendencies. The perpetrators of the attacks in Manchester and London were likewise Muslim activists with extreme, violent tendencies. The great difference between the public perception of these events, though, is that the British criminals were everywhere characterized as Islamic terrorists, whereas nowhere has Hodgkinson been called a democratic terrorist. The truth is that it is as senseless to blame Islam for the demented criminal actions of Salman Abidi, Khurram Butt, Rashid Redwan and Yusuf Zarba as it is to blame the Democratic Party for the demented criminal actions of James Hodgkinson. The causes of these terrible outrages lie solely in the twisted psyches of each of these criminal minds, not in whatever ideological doctrine they may have hijacked to vent their self-destructive, murderous rage against their fellow human beings. This must be understood. It is essential that we understand the motivation behind these brutal crimes. Otherwise, the misguided and mounting demonization of the whole British Muslim community will continue unchecked, and the increasing number of vicious and unprovoked attacks on ordinary Muslims will proliferate, seriously threatening the social fabric of our country. The whole phenomenon of violent extremism has been brilliantly analysed and explained by Pankaj Mishra in his book Age of Anger, and those in charge of government policy would do well to thoroughly absorb it and similar corroborating studies before jumping to premature and uninformed conclusions about what they call extremist Islamic ideology and the effects they attribute to it. What caused the atrocities perpetrated by the criminals in Manchester and London was not any radicalization of Islam. The cause was rather the Islamification of their inherent violent extremism. Just as what brought about the criminal outrage of James Hodgkinson in Washington was not the radicalization of his democratic politics. What brought it about was simply the democratization of his inherent violent extremism.